Today's video we're going to be making these. These are solid cherry dovetailed drawers with half blinds in the front and then full dovetails in the back. This is actually the first project where I've ever cut a dovetail. And so I am overall very satisfied with this. They were far from perfect. I had to put some tricks into fixing them, the sawdust and glue trick, to fill the gaps, but I'm overall very satisfied with this, being the first time I ever made it. So follow along if you want to see how I made this. Thanks for watching.
Alright, so let's get right to it. This is really the only part of the milling process for the drawers that I show. The front face of the drawer boxes has to be a little bit thicker to accommodate the half blind dovetails that we'll be cutting in a little bit. I didn't have wide enough material to fit the drawer space, so I had to take what I had, and I'm gluing them together to make a wider panel, which I'll cut down to a final size in a little bit in the video. I absolutely love this 735 planer that I have. The only complaint that I have, as you can see here, that the board comes out and hits the collection hose. I've had it snag and tear into my collection hose, so I wish that the port came out at an angle. You can see I'm cutting off the extra material now to fit the drawer space. I'll do this with both drawers, and then I'll do a test fit here to see how it fits into the cabinet space once I cut it to length as well, what you see me doing right here. This is just about the fit I was going for. It's a little bit snug. I'll take off the extra material when I go to sand. I want it to fit very snug at this point though. I'm going to go ahead and cut the bottom groove into the drawer fronts and sides, and I cut off this portion on the back panel, or I'm sorry, the back board of the drawer box. That way I can slide in the bottom. And then I'll make my first pass, and I'll move my fence just a little bit to accommodate the 1/4 inch cherry plywood panel that I will be using as the drawer bottom. If I had to pick one thing in the past year that has really improved my woodworking ability, it is making this moccasin vise. I don't have a workbench per se. I have this large work area on my miter saw station, but I don't have any work holding. So this moccasin vise has really changed how I'm able to work, and I don't know how I worked without it before. Since I forgot to do this before cutting the drawer bottom groove, I'm going to go ahead and mark my face edges and face sides. This will be what I use to reference going forward and make all my layout marks. I will also label each corner so that they correspond to each other. One will go with 1, 2 with 2, and so forth. That way when I'm actually cutting and pairing the tails to the pins, I will be doing it to the correct board to board. I'm going to go ahead and mark out for my dovetails now. I am not going to give a tutorial on how to do this because this is the first time I've ever done dovetails. Just a note here while I'm doing the layout, these drawer boxes actually took me about 3 weeks to make. It's not because I'm actually working that slow. I was lucky if I got 30 minutes or an hour every few days out in the garage to work. And so I'd come out, and one day I would do the layout. The next day I might be able to come out and cut a few cuts, and I might be able to get the waste out. If not, I'd save it for the next time I was able to come out. And then transferring the pins to the tail boards to the pin boards. That would be something that I would do maybe the next day. And so it took me quite a while, just because of the limits of time I've had in the shop. This has been a very, very busy and unplanned past few weeks. I'm hoping to get back on track with the rest of this project and get it wrapped up here soon. I didn't actually keep track of how long it took me to build each drawer box, but approximately for the first one it took me about 6 hours, which sounds really awful. But like I've said multiple times throughout this video so far, this is the first time I've done anything with dovetails. And so I wanted to make sure that I was doing everything right, and then I also had to work through my process on how I wanted to do this. So it took me a little bit longer. The second box I think I got done in just under 2 hours from start to finish, not including the milling process. So overall improvement in time and efficiency. If you haven't noticed already, I'm going to be cutting both tail boards or both side pieces to the cabinet boxes at the same time, just to be a little bit quicker and more efficient. It also gives me more reference area for my saw to make sure that I'm cutting square. I want to mark my waist because I am notorious for cutting on the wrong side of the line, so I want to make sure that I can do everything to prevent that. When I started cutting this, I had the boards really up high on the vise. I was getting a lot of chatter and I was getting kind of frustrated. I couldn't understand why it was racking the way it was, and then here shortly I realized that it was up too high, and when I flipped the boards over to cut the opposite side, I lowered it down to the vise and everything was much easier to cut when it was lower in the vise. Here you can see it's much lower, and you can see how much easier and less chatter, for lack of better terms, I'm having when cutting. Up to this point in my woodworking, I have almost exclusively used power tools. Like I said before, I didn't really have any way to do any work holding, so now that I have the Moxon vise, I want to start incorporating it. I found that I really enjoy using hand tools. I like the quiet, I like the no power tools, no loud saws, no dust collector running. I like how it slows everything down. With that being said, the sawing mechanics that I'm using are not what they should be. There's a lot of room for improvement. But I found with this saw, I don't know if it's this saw or if it's just in general, this is the Veritas dovetail saw. I found that this saw left a very clean cut. It was very easy to follow the lines, and required minimal cleanup. I'm going to use my new Concepts fret saw to start removing some waste material. This is an awesome fret saw. Again, my sawing mechanics is not the greatest. I broke a few blades. And I think this is the most satisfying part of doing the hand-cut dovetails, is just snapping this piece off. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this is not the correct application for a dovetail saw as when cutting out this waste material. I believe I need the crosscut saw, but I don't have one, and I don't want to spend any more money after just purchasing this saw. So I used it. It came out nice, but maybe in the future on another project I'll spend the money and get a dedicated saw for that purpose. I'm going to start using my chisels to get back to my marking line. I don't go straight to my marking line. I will work my way back, take half material and then half again and half again until I can't half it anymore. And then I will go all the way down, or halfway through, and then flip the board and then go the rest of the way. That way I can avoid any blowout. I did use some files just to fine-tune everything. I would say 98% of all the work was done with the chisels. This was just to fine-tune and clean everything up. I used the flat file to get the faces that I could get, and I used this little, I don't know what it's called, but it's a little triangle shape to get into those tight nooks and crannies that I couldn't get otherwise. just to clean everything up. And it worked really well, and I'll probably continue using this method going forward. I'm not sure that it's the correct way or the preferred way, but that's what I did, and I'll probably do it again. Now I'm going to transfer my tails to my pin board. You saw that I just have the hand plane there brought to the same level as the board in the vise. That way I can have a steady workpiece when I'm transferring the lines over. And again, I'm going to mark out the waist just to dummy prove it. This is the way that I decided to do it. I don't feel confident enough in my chiseling skills to be able to chisel out and take a bulk of this material out. So I decided to do it with the router. I got fairly close to my line. I think I left maybe half a millimeter in most cases away from the line that I came back and cleaned up with my chisels. I definitely should have sharpened my chisels before doing this chisel work. These are just cheap benchtop chisels from, I think, Home Depot that I've had for probably a few years now. They don't hold an edge very long, but they do get very sharp. They just don't hold an edge. So this was a lot more work than it should have been, especially on that 1-inch chisel that I was using. Right here you can see why I was kind of using this, and I split the board. I decided to just continue working and come back to fix it later. Turned out to be okay. You can't really see the fix. What I did off cameras, I just kind of wedged that open even more, shoved some glue in there, and then I put a clamp on it. You can't really see it at all unless you know it's there. Now I'm working on the back of the cabinet box, transferring those tail boards to the back pen board. You can see that I'm staying on the inside of my line. I'm leaving my line plus some material that I'll come back and chisel down later. And again, here that fret saw, and you'll see that I break another blade. I think I broke 3 blades so far in this project. So I got to figure out what I'm doing that is causing the blade to break. Replace the blade, and I'll go ahead and finish this cut. So I still haven't sharpened my chisel. I think I would have learned after that past mistake. But unfortunately, there's no issues with this. I'll definitely clean it up and sharpen it before I move on to the project. This is the first time I'm actually putting the entire drawer together. I have tested each of these joints, each of these corners individually, but this is the first time the entire drawer box is coming together. I'll go ahead and scribble some lines and start sanding. I sand 80, 120, 180, and I'm only sanding the inside faces of these drawer boxes. That way I can apply finish before gluing up, and the inside is just done and I don't have to worry about it. That does 2 things for me. One, it's a lot easier to sand this when they're flat and not confined inside of a box. And 2, the glue will not stick to the oil finish, and so if there is any squeeze out, which there is, I can get that off fairly simple. Then we're going to do one last dry fit. I may have taken off too much material when sanding. I was probably a little aggressive with the 80 grit. There's some gaps on the inside corners that were not there prior, but that's okay, and I'll just chalk it up as a lesson learned. Just checking real quick that the box is square before I measure for the bottom panel. I'm doing the side to side inside faces plus 3/4 of an inch. The groove is 3/8 of an inch, and there's 2, so plus 3/4 of an inch. And then I'm going to cut the panel out, and it slides right in, perfect fit. I'll go ahead and apply finish off camera, and then we'll do the glue up. I didn't want to use a whole lot of glue. I didn't want a lot of squeeze out. I did have some, but it was very manageable, especially with the pre-finishing the inside like I mentioned just previously. gonna go ahead and wipe away the squeeze out that came inside the box. And then these are called pinching sticks, just a way to check for square, measuring corner to corner. It's not really measuring, but marking out a line corner to corner. And they should match. And if they don't match, you just adjust the box like you see me doing here, and then strike another line and check your corners again. I just wanted to explain what I was doing when I was checking for square for the drawer boxes. These are called, I believe, pinching sticks. Each end has an angle less than 90 degrees. What you do is you put these in opposite corners and then you strike a line. And then you take that and you flip it back to the other corner, and those lines should be the same. If, for example, they were off a little bit, then you know that your box is out of square. You adjust it as needed and then you check again. I went ahead and put together this little sanding platform, I'm not sure what it's called, to clean up everything. I had the joinery a little bit proud, and then I had the any squeeze out or any imperfections in the drawer box. I took it out with this. I could have done it with a hand plane. I think most people probably would do it with a hand plane. I just do not feel confident with my hand plane. I really use the hand plane for rough work, and I always come back and finish it with sanding anyways. Just because I'm not good at it and I don't know what I can do to get better other than practice, but I don't want to practice on this because I've already got so much work into it. This was actually really enjoyable to sand this way. I had the proud joinery, and then I brought all the edges and faces into square, and you can see that they slide in nicely now since I took off a little bit of the material. I took off a little bit more than I wanted to. Again, I got aggressive with the 80 grit, but that's all right. I'm going to go ahead and put in these drawer runners. That way the drawer can't rack side to side when it's going in. I did this on both sides and then down the middle, obviously. And then I put a drawer stop in on the back as well.
So I want to try something new today. I've never done this. Again, same theme with this entire project, a lot of first. I went to my local hardwood store. There's two that I go here locally. One of them is called Weibel's U-Pick. They have quite the selection of lumber, exotics and domestics. They had these ebony pen blanks for $3.53. I picked up two. I thought I could shape them and cut them in half and have one handle or two handles out of one blank, one for the drawers, and then one each for the doors that I'll be making at some point. So I'm gonna give this a shot. It's not perfectly squared, it's just a pen blank. So we'll see what we can do with it, and then if I can make something nice out of it, then that's might be my go-to for future hardware.
I don't need these pen blanks to be exactly square, but I need them to be cleaned up. They were pretty rough, but they actually came out pretty square. I moved over to my Moxon vise. I chalked up my trim router in the vise to start working on the profile. I don't think that I'd recommend anyone to do this. It was probably a little bit dangerous, and I don't know that I would even do it again. It did work out and it came out nicely, but again, I don't know that I would do it again. This is me cleaning up the profile that I just put in before I move it over to the router again with a different bit to clean up the other face. Went ahead and threw this round over bit into the trim router, and I'm going to do a similar operation. This did feel a little bit safer than the previous operation when I was using the fence, but I still don't know that I'd recommend doing this. It came out all right. I just don't know that I'd recommend it. You can see how it looks there. It looks nice. Moved over to the table saw and I cut it into half. I ended up with just under 2.5 inches for each piece. And then I start centering it onto my drawer box. I'll go ahead and wipe off the ebony with some acetone to get any of the oils. I've heard that you need to do this with any exotics. I don't know if it's true, but I don't want to take any risk. You see that the clamp I thought would reach didn't quite reach, so I had to move to the blue tape method. This worked out just fine for this drawer box, but when I put the other one on, as you'll see here in this first one, it's a little bit crooked, and I didn't catch it until after the glue had set, so it's a little frustrating, but it is what it is. I will keep it as is. It'll be a reminder. This is just going into my house. It'll be a gift for my new daughter, who was just born in the last couple weeks. I'll say it one more time. I am very satisfied with the way that these came out. This being the first time, I was hesitant to start this part of the project because I didn't want to waste any materials and waste any time. But I am very satisfied with how they came out, and I look forward to cutting more dovetails in the future. Thanks for watching.